Welcome back everybody, DestinysJesus here. Today I've got a brand new video and breaking down what I learned from the first tournament of 2021. If you guys didn't know, the first tournament this year was the Friday night bragging rights, where basically the whole principle of it is everybody is playing for a Twitter shout out. It might not seem crazy, but the games were relatively stacked. We have a lot of pros in our lobby, especially because we were high elo throughout. We got some really good WQ games. We did a 39 kill win, and we basically have been breaking down what mistakes that we made that you guys can try to avoid, and some mistakes that you might be making in your own gameplay, as well as a bunch of tips that you can apply into your own gameplay to perform better, and also just to get more kills mid game, which is kind of the whole principle of this tourney, just getting a lot of fights in. Make sure to go check out my teammates Skillico and Bitflocks. I'll leave them linked down below. They're basically carrying me throughout this, and they're really good teammates, so make sure to go check them out. As always, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and make sure to watch the full thing to learn all of the tips. So the first mistake of this tourney came in the very first game, in the very first fight. What I did was actually get way too overeager to fight this guy, thinking he was a bad player. I get this crack here, then I come around from the side angle. My teammate Bitflocks is spraying for me as well, so I'm really confident in taking this fight. I shotgun as well, then pull out my pickaxe, and this guy has to make this play. Looking like he has to make this play where he runs out on me and takes the angel. If I was standing here ready for this play, it would have been a free one tack as he ran towards me, just shoot him in the body and he's dead. Instead, he gets a nice two tack timing where he just runs out and kills me, and this instantly sells our entire tournament just because I died a spawn in the very first fight. Luckily though, my teammates were able to clutch up and hit some nice shots versus the other guys, and we should have been prepared for this. I just need to be way more patient in an in-game or spawn fight. People have to rush and make those plays if they're getting pressured by your teammates, and allow them to make the mistakes and then play for them, instead of you just jumping on the walls and trying to swing instantly and get in their box. Let them make a mistake and play a little bit more patient. Now, our first game had a couple other mistakes from my teammates when they ended up going down before endgame. That was mainly because we were just trying to get as many kills as possible, and we didn't actually have the best WQ mid-game routes. We ended up just going mid-map, trying to fight teams rather than going around edge and looking for teams that way. In the endgame though, we actually played pretty decently. I was able to clutch up and basically just harpoon this guy off height, then pressure him from the backside on the weak part of his top. And then in a 1v1 situation, I just go for a build off and then get the timing on this guy where I saw he was moving to the side, get the shot of the Dragon's Breath as he leaves that way, and then we win the first game. Only 18 eliminations really isn't the best at the start of the tourney, but we actually picked up next game and we got a really fat game. This is just a tip for support players. Whenever you guys are kind of unsure what you should be doing in a fight, just make sure you're using your AR or just spraying as much as possible. So how our team chemistry set up is basically Bitflocks is kind of the fragger, and he's going to be trying to get into the most boxes, and same with Skillico during mid-game fights. He's just trying to be committing into boxes. What I do is basically just act as a support player, and I spray a lot. You can see here Bitflocks the fragger is marking the box he wants me to spray. I'm just spraying for him and just getting annoying damages in on this other player as he moves away, and that allows Bitflocks to just jump in with a shotgun. It's a really good example where the other player can't deal with kind of the just amount of people spraying at him and jumping at the same time. We get a free knock there, and then we're able to just clean up the rest of this guy's trio as well. It's just a quick thing, but whenever you're low in trios, doesn't mean you have to be out of the fight or completely like not involved. So here I'm 1 HP after getting the initial knock, and my teammates are both committing into the box, so I can't just sit back and pop my minis. You need to make sure and be aware of the fact that you can just spray your AR, whether you're 1 HP, whether you're 200, you can still be useful by spraying your AR. So I spray in here as Skillico commits in the box, the other guy's distracted by Skillico in his face, so we're able to get the knock and get the full trio wipe as well after that. So this is the end of the second game where we actually got 37 eliminations. One thing that I recommend if you're trying to get high elims is obviously understanding where the mid-game zones are pulling, and the fact that you need to be going for bounties mid-game. If you can get bounties, you'll normally end up getting 3 full kills minimum from each bounty that you grab, if you're able to go ahead and just find all the teams correctly. And make sure you're using movement in trio fights. You can't just be pushing a team on foot. Use your movement to commit in and get an initial knock, and then from there the other 2 players should be pretty free to kill. This is just a quick tip. Whenever you're rotating mid-game, keep in mind who in your trio has snipers. In this case, we were able to get an opening sniper on this team that we wanted to key, just because we're rotating on a car. Really obviously that makes it very free shots in the opponent's POV. We get a free knock there because he did a really wide edit, and then if we're actually committing to this fight, 2 of us just came from the top and committed in to try to get the thirst together, while the other player kept the player busy down on low ground. One mistake that we made in our third game was the fact that we were way too overeager into trying to go for kills at kind of this late game period. When you're kind of in center third or fourth zone, there's so many third parties that you basically have to box fight other teams. This led to us taking way too long. You can see we're all below kind of 150 HP here. Had to waste our rift just to come in here, and then also again, I marked this spot and our teammates decided last seconds. Another mistake is we kind of went to different spots and I dived way too much. They marked a different spot, we ended up landing split, and we also had to waste a rift just because of the fact we were going for so many kills earlier. One thing you can learn from this is the fact that you need to chill out a little bit more, especially during those later points of the game when everybody's boxed up and you can't fight without third parties and other people just spraying you. In the end game, game 3 ended up popping off a little bit, which I'll let it play for you guys, but basically we made a big mistake here again. One thing that we were doing was trying to be way too aggro and stay on kind of this mid-ground layer. This meant that high ground, because we were the second height team, was just spraying us the entire time, and the rest of the lobby was just solos on low ground. When we dropped on slow, we actually got all of these kills down here, and I got a load of player eliminations. But the fact is that these other players were just going to keep on storming away. So many of them chased me down and then just killed me in storm that Skillico was left in a 1v3 situation, which ended up just meaning it was kind of unwinnable for him. If we decided to commit to low ground early and had more mats, then we wouldn't have had a situation where there were so many players just jumping at the same time. We could have had the edit control and been on the front side of zone. Second place, third game with decent amount of elims. We're averaging like 49 points per game here. Was pretty decent overall though. In game 4, we ended up dying a spawn because my game crashed and my teammates just landed at Misty as a duo and ended up dying. In game 5, we have another big mistake here I think you guys could learn from when it comes to upcoming trio tournaments. So after I get this initial knock on this player, Bitflox is traded. I get the thirst thinking that I don't want the guy to give comms, and I make a bit of space backwards. Looking back on this, I have 130 brick. I should be making way more boxes, and so should Skillico. He should be in a completely different area, trying to keep the distraction away and keep the other players busy, and I should be instantly rezzing. One thing that you can think about when it comes to team dynamics is just understanding the fact that normally the higher ping player should be rezzing, so the lower ping player who's alive can hold the walls. I'm from the UK, so I've normally got better ping than Skillico, who lives in Norway, so I should be the one holding the walls here and he should be the one rezzing. Also, one thing that he could have done was place me and Bitflox in a cone so that other players won't be able to see us. Just looking back on that, something they could have done. So here, we get the rest of like 9 seconds done. Skillico has his wall taken first try. I'm able to trade this guy just by standing here with the Dragon's Breath and hitting a body shot, and then Bitflox is left to 1 HP and alone, and we end up dying at 6th place. Kind of a bad finish to a really nice set of streak of games that we had in game 1, 2, and 3. In game 6 here, we actually had a W key game where we were trying to fight as many teams as possible. First big mistake just comes from trio communication, is the fact that Bitflox said, oh, there's a team on the hill, and didn't actually mark where they were. That meant Skillico was in the open as he was running, and he got headshot sniped and knocked instantly at the start of the fight. Just one thing that you need to make sure you go ahead and do is always try to use danger markers or just regular markers to let your team know exactly what kind of information without any kind of like miscommunication that you can have there. Here as you get the solo fight, I make kind of a bad at it, I get a crack on this guy and he comes into my box. Looking back on this, there's a lot of different plays that I can go for here. I've got enough mats to rebox and get out. I could have gone for a different stare edit. I could have been quicker on my stare edit. Or alternatively, probably the best decision I could have gone for was to bail out, use my shockwaves and regroup for my teammate and then fight from there. I can get heals off him. I can maybe even kill the player on him with him, just help him out by spraying. Instead, what I decided to do was go for this stare edit that normally works, but this guy got really good time where he broke it exactly as I did the edit, so it was 1 HP, and then he instantly knocks me. Bitflox ends up losing this 1v1, which is pretty unfortunate, and that was our W key gone, which meant everything relied on our last game. As we came to this last game, it all rided on this. We were in the top 20 on leaderboards, and we definitely had the possibility, if we won this last game, to get the fabled shout out from the Fortnite Comp Twitter account. That was the whole point of this tournament. So what we decided to go ahead and do was we were trying to fight the other team on our side of Misty. We realised where one of the players was, so you can see my teammates mark where he was, and they were going to go over and try to isolate the fight. I assumed that he was going to regroup with his teammates, so I would be good to go ahead and grab a bounty off the Condor guy. That would allow us to upgrade our guns, as well as get Dragon's Breath potentially, and this was way too greedy. These other two players had a really nice strategy where they waited behind a right hand peak on the actual bounty guy, expecting me to go for it. So they double sprayed, and I got eliminated, and my teammates weren't able to clutch up their spawn in the 2v3. You can't ever assume things about where your enemies are positioned off spawn, and you definitely can't make assumptions about where they may be positioned, because that can lead to really bad situations like this. Ended up dying off spawn, teammates weren't able to clutch up. It was entirely my fault just going into that, and that was a mistake that I made. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you can learn a couple different things from my thought process, as well as just some of the mistakes that we were making, as well as a couple different tips that we covered throughout. Make sure to go follow Bitflox and Skillico on Twitter. I'll leave a link down below, and also make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, if you enjoy the content, and we're going to be doing loads more of these what I learned videos in the future on the actual tournaments that come out.